What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the Locks DFS NBA breakdown video. The date today is December 11th, and we're going to be breaking down this massive 11-game NBA slate on tap for you guys. I am Christian Hardy. I am By Hardy on Twitter, and I am By Hardy on DraftKings, and I am from LocksDFS.com. We are a provider of DFS content for NBA, NFL, and college football, although the college football season is now winding down. We provide player grades, player analysis, value, stud rankings, as well as color coordinating our sheet that we post usually about an hour and a half before lock, going through kind of our ranking our value studs to help you guys build better lineups essentially. So check us out at locksdfs.com if you haven't. Of course, per usual, we are going to be doing that giveaway on the Thursday night football video. So if you have not already, be sure to comment on one of these videos. Comment on this video with your favorite cash play of the day. Favorite play of the day, even if it's a GPP play, it's okay. And you'll be interested to win that free season pass from LocksDFS.com. We will select someone on the Thursday night football video that will be coming out tonight. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into this slate where, luckily the benefit of recording this in the afternoon is that we usually get a little bit of extra injury news. And today, the big piece of injury news is that Giannis is going to be out. Obviously, Giannis, one of the most productive players in the league. They are playing New Orleans today, which, even adds to the fact that Giannis is out and that, even on an 11-game slate, we're going to see these Bucks end up being pretty massive chalk. Like we already had, even before Giannis was going to be out, Bledsoe with his price is $6K before he's going to be out. There's clear upside here, especially in this matchup. Well, now he's out. So let's talk about, with Giannis in, Middleton has a 26% usage rate. Bledsoe has a 25% usage rate. Brook Lopez has an 18% usage rate. That is going to change a whole lot with Giannis out. Bledsoe jumps to 34%, Middleton to 34%, Lopez to 24%. And that's just the usage rate. Obviously, we're talking about Giannis, a guy who grabs 13 rebounds a game. Those have got to go somewhere. We're talking about five assists per game. Those are both got to go somewhere. So, Giannis being out could also move the pace down just a tad, but I'm not really too worried about that because New Orleans will, on the other end, will keep that pace up. They might not do as much in transition because they don't have Giannis, but they're still going to be able to run pace up. Milwaukee is. So, I don't really need to tell you that Bledsoe is a phenomenal play at 6K. He's got a 34% usage rate. He's going to be playing a ton of the game. Probably, if it's a close game, he's probably going to be playing up to like 34 minutes in this game, especially with no Giannis. They're going to need these other starters to play a lot. Chris Middleton, of course, becomes a solid play as well. He's going to see a lot more usage. His usage bumps at 34%. This is a pace-up game. Again, a game that should remain close if we go over to the Vegas dashboard. It is actually a 10-point spread now with Giannis, but it was supposed to be a blowout. Now it's 10-point spread. Actually, 14 with Giannis seems really high to me. To be honest, for a healthy Pelicans team, I know the Pelicans aren't great, but 14, man. The Bucks are getting a lot of love after this Clippers game for sure, but 14 was high to see. Actually, I really had no idea. But 10 is decent. It's gonna stay close. I think this game is gonna stay close. Brook Lopez at 4.9. He's gonna see more rebounds. He's gonna see more usage. And then you go to the bench guys, where you have some of the best value on the slate, and we're gonna talk about more value later in the day or later in this video. There's actually not a ton of really cheap guys in the slate, so I think a lot of the popular value is going to end up coming from here. Whoever starts in Giannis' place, of course, will be very popular, I think. Ersan Ilyasova, I think, will probably be the guy who gets the biggest minutes bump off the bench. We could see him potentially get a start. We could see DiVincenzo potentially get a start. I don't really think that lineup would work too well. I don't really see how that would work, but I do think DiVincenzo, he gets a giant bump without Giannis, and just in general, the points per minute wise, and then in general, minutes are gonna have those Giannis minutes are gonna have to go somewhere. We could see DiVincenzo get a few more minutes on the wing. He makes some sense of the value. Wes Matthews may get a little bit more usage with the starters. He makes a decent value. He was already someone that at 3.5K. Not a ton of room to fail. We're still talking about Wes Matthews here, but it is a very good matchup. I never want to play Wes Matthews, but I'm just saying at 3.5 with no Giannis, he's going to have to see some extra usage as well. Even if he ticks up, 0.15 fantasy points per minute, that's significant for him at 3.5K. And then, like I said, Ilyasova is definitely a play. DJ Wilson might see some minutes off the bench as well. Just going to have to see what they do, and I'm not going to feel too comfortable about DJ Wilson. Like in my cash games, but he'd be an interesting guy because he's so productive when he's on the floor that he'd be an interesting guy off the bench in a pace-up game. Hopefully that talks about Milwaukee enough. I know, lots of those spots are really, really good spots. For New Orleans, I also have some interest here. Obviously Milwaukee runs at a pace up, so Brandon Ingram, 7,800, I think that's a very, very solid price for him. 1.3 fantasy point per minute producer, 1.3 fantasy point per minute producer this year. Just a very productive fantasy player. Going to be a pace-up game. That should be very productive for fantasy. Of course, I also have a little bit of interest in Drew Holiday, who is also pretty chalky. He's around like 15% owned right now. Don't know how that'll change with the Milwaukee stuff, but we're going to see some ownership taken away from other guys. But Holiday, I think, is a solid play as well. Lonzo is still fine at 5.1K. I have no problem with Lonzo at 5.1K, but he didn't start last game, so of course, be making sure that he's actually in the starting lineup. I expect him to be in the starting lineup for this game 100%. Which is why I don't like Drew as much as I like Ingram, if that makes sense. Drew, when Lonzo is less productive because he's not going to be on ball as much. He's going to be much more of just of a shooter. And then Josh Hart at 4-1 is also another solid value play, to be honest. I mean, dude is pretty much the first guy off the bench consistently, pace-up game. Makes a ton of sense. He should have some shots. And then Jackson Hayes, I think this game suits Jackson Hayes really well as well at 4.1K. We know the upside that Jackson Hayes can bring, even in just, that's a pretty big minutes game, but even in like 26 minutes, he can bring you 25 fantasy points. That's great at this price. Derek Favors is still out, so, if Jackson Hayes gets to start, I'm interested. Of course, Okafor again. Okafor started over last game, got in foul trouble, didn't do a whole lot. Ended up getting there, actually. I didn't know that he ended up getting there, but, yeah, so both those guys, whoever starts at the center is going to be someone that I'm thinking about in cash games. Moving on, that's the highest total of the game, the highest total game on the slate. And then we'll just talk about some interesting pricing just across the board. Pricing that stands out that's going to end up being pretty chalky. One is Kevin Love at 6K flat on DraftKings. Some of the Bucks value could end up bringing this ownership down again, but right now he looks like he's going to be very, very chalky at this price on FanDuel. Play 27 minutes and blowout against Boston. So even in 27 minutes, I don't feel bad. Let's assume this is a blowout here against Houston. The line is, I don't like to factor in blowouts into my kind of, just siding on my lineups here. But even this is a blowout, I feel comfortable. They've got a 108.5 team total. They're 11.5 dogs. They're at home. Houston is obviously a team that moves pace up. It's going to create a lot of shots. They don't have, a great interior defense, nothing that I'm scared of. Kevin Love should put up a decent amount of threes as well, which adds to his upside. 6K, 1.2 fantasy point per minute producer that should play, upward. If he's in a close game, he'll play upwards of 32 minutes. You can see him play probably 32, possibly more than that. But, even if we're giving him 28, assuming this is a blowout, I think that he's a very solid play, 6K at 1.2 fantasy point per minute. He is going to be very highly owned, so, take that as you will. But he's going to be someone who I think, like Eric Bledsoe, just projects too well to ignore, and is going to be someone that you're going to probably want to play in cash. And like I said, your reason for fading could just be a blowout. Of course, also on Cleveland, I think that if you think this game is going to stay close and you think they stay with the starters, you can make a case for Jordan Clarkson right here, 4.1K. You can certainly make a very good case for Cedi Osman at 3.3K as a punt. Of course, he's had two very unproductive games, and he is coming back from injury on those games. So, a little bit of concern there because we haven't seen him be very productive since he came back from his injury. Which was a minor injury, that's why I'm not too concerned about it because it wasn't something that kept him out for a long time. It's just something he was dealing with for a little bit. I think that he's going to be right back to form, eventually, and this is a good game for him to do it. Of course, like I said, a pace up, a team that, will give you some shots here in Houston, run pace up. Should play, 30 minutes if he plays 4 stints as a starter, so this price is just way too low for me on Osman. Definitely makes sense as a really low, cheap punt for me, in my opinion. Another price that just stands out to me when I look at the slate is going to be Donovan Mitchell at 7.4K. We know how fast Minnesota's been running recently. I mean, their pace has been insane. If you watch that the Lakers game the other day, I mean, the pace in that game, they were just flying, man. They were just, they were just getting their shots up. They were running transition as well as they could against a tough Lakers team. This team likes to run. Of course, that Memphis game as well. Or not the Memphis game. No. They played another game. Anyway, the point being, Minnesota runs up in pace, and this is a very good spot for Utah and Donovan Mitchell, for Rudy Gobert. We go over to Fantasy Labs in the Vegas total 222.5, one of the highest on the slate. There are a lot of really low totals. I mean, the Lakers are playing Orlando, and there's a lot of there's a lot of low totals in the slate. So 222.5, pretty respectable. Donovan Mitchell, I've said before, they love, these Mitchell and Gobert, especially with no Conley, are going to be out on the floor for like 36 minutes in these close competitive games. And this is definitely one that's going to be that. It's a pace-up game for Mitchell. With his minutes, I love the floor that he's going to get. He's going to get a small assist rate bump with no Conley on the floor, who's still out for this game. That should, funnel additional production to Mitchell. Should also funnel additional production to Gobert. Of course, not the greatest of matchups for Gobert, but not a bad one. I'm not really scared of Cat's defense necessarily. More scared of his offensive prowess. So, yeah, I think his role makes him a very solid cash play. Of course, another one that, price-wise just stands out on this slate is Kyle Lowry. We move over to Kyle Lowry at 7.1K. He has played 38 minutes with no Van Fleet. Since coming back from injury, he played 41 in the first one back, then 42. I mean, the dude is playing a ton of minutes. I guess that is just what they're going to do in Toronto, is play these starters massive minutes. Fred Van Fleet is questionable, of course. My opinion on that is basically Lowry becomes almost a cash lock if Van Fleet is out. Although the production doesn't go up massively, it goes up enough to the point where I am very interested in Lowry there. If Van Fleet is in, I think that you can fade Lowry, actually, especially with the defense that he's going to be seeing from Pat Beverly. I think that if Van Fleet is in, it just ends up capping Lowry's upside to the point where I'm not sure I really want to play a Lowry that's going to be super owned in GPPs against Patrick Beverly, against a really solid defense, if Van Fleet is going to be in there taking shots and potentially taking some minutes as well. I don't think I think the Lowry's good for 38 minutes, which is what makes him such a good play. Lowry's over a 1 fantasy per minute producer, and he's going to be playing 38 minutes. I mean, it just makes too much sense here. I think he's a very solid cash play, and someone you can fade if Van Fleet is out. And, of course, another guy who I like regardless, but, again, if Van Fleet's out, going to get a usage bump is going to be Pascal Siakam. His price is solid at 8K. It's come down a little bit. I think he's a very solid pivot off of the Lowry chalk at probably about the third of the ownership of Lowry. I think at least half the ownership. And then we'll talk about briefly the second highest total of the day, which isn't really getting a lot of fantasy ownership because the pricing is really tough on these guys. There's Addy calling me in the middle of my video. We're going to be talking about the second highest total game of the day, Memphis and Phoenix. Grayson Allen is going to be out in this game, which is the only reason why I think there could be some value here. Like, Dylan Brooks could end up seeing a higher minutes floor at 4.9K. And I don't mind the price at all on Dylan Brooks here. Like, I think that he's pretty safe for 20 minutes for the most part. This is a game where Phoenix is the 8th in pace, Memphis is 7th in pace. This game is going to run pace up for the most part, and of course, you were seeing that in the total. So Brooks is a guy that makes sense to me. And then on the Phoenix side, well, other than that for Memphis, it's tough because Ja Morant, 7.3K, doesn't add a lot of upside there. Jonas Valanciunas, 7K, doesn't add a lot of upside when Ja Morant is in the lineup. Jaren Jackson, 6.3. Again, Brendan Clark's coming back. That's going to take some minutes from Jaren, more than likely. There's just not a lot of situations where you can attack here. DeAnthony Melton is going to see more minutes without Grayson probably too, but not enough for me to really be interested at that price. So there's just no one for Memphis that really stands out other than maybe some Dylan Brooks. Phoenix, again, tough situation. All these guys are really priced up. Devin Booker, 8.8K, not someone that I can really get too much there. I mean, he's a GBP play for me at that price. That's just too high. Ricky Rubio has really come on recently, and he is getting some ownership at this price because of his recent production. It's tough to see him at this price and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to play him, but I do think that he's a very solid play. He's someone that if I was going to try to get a few pieces of this game, he's someone that I would definitely prioritize. And then we're going to see Aaron Baines return, and that's another reason why Phoenix, Aaron Baines did return 15 minutes last game. We knew he was going to be on a minutes limit. This game, he is probable for this game, and I think he's going to end up seeing close to his regular minutes, being like 26, 25, 26, 24, somewhere in there. There are a lot of options at front court. Shaq Diallo, of course, like Frank Kaminsky. But Aaron Baines is the guy that went out there for the most part. He's shown himself to be very, very good this year when he's on the floor. And at 4.9K, as long as we know that he's not on a minutes limit, and he's getting the start here, he becomes the clear top play for Phoenix, and honestly the clear top play in this game, if he is to be in the lineup and if he is to not be on a minutes limit. Okay. And then since I didn't really talk about a lot of value, I talked about Cedi Osman and maybe some of the Bucks guys. That's just going to rely on the lineup. I will touch really briefly on some three values I think are at least interesting. I think Kobe White's price against Atlanta is definitely something worth looking at. And actually, two of the value plays I want to talk about are in this game. Kobe White has played 32 and 30 minutes in the last two games. We're going to see Ryan Arcidiacono come back, but I'm not really too concerned about him taking minutes from too many minutes from Kobe White. He could take a few, but I think White's going to mostly be around 26, 28. And, he's going to project very well, even if you're giving him 26 here. If he gets up 27, 28, he's going to do great. Of course, one thing I'd love to see is that he's getting those peripherals in these two games, even though he has not scored a ton. We know what kind of scoring he can do. And if he does do a lot of that, and of course Atlanta's a great matchup for him to do plenty of scoring in. So if he's grabbing these peripherals and he's doing some scoring, I really like Kobe White today. And you're getting him at probably the cheapest price we've seen him since the beginning of the year, actually, on Kobe White, in what is a very good matchup against Atlanta. That total is also probably very solid at 221. So interest in Kobe White. There's honestly a lot of interest in this game. I got to look into it more deeply, but Kevin Werder is also interesting. But DeAndre Hunter, another guy, saw 40 minutes last night. That probably a part of the reason was just because the Hawks, Damian Jones got 2 minutes, or two fouls, 3 minutes in, and they just had some foul issues yesterday. Of course, 40 minutes on a back-to-back. I'm not too worried about it for a rookie. Should be fine. Rookie who has not gone through any injuries this year. I'm fine with Hunter. It should be playing 30 minutes a night at 4.3K. Lots of room for upside and a floor. That's about 4X in most spots. So it's not the most exciting play with Hunter because, you've seen these games this year where he just doesn't do any scoring. But with Collins out, we've always assumed that he would get into more of a scoring role, and he's started to do that with no Collins. So, going back 5, 6, 7 games now, he started to do that. So, I think he's feeling more comfortable as a scorer. This is a pretty solid rebounding matchup. He makes sense as a value to me. And then one just GBP guy I want to mention is just because Austin Rivers is out, so those minutes have to go somewhere. Daniel House Jr. is in. So what I'm expecting here really against Cleveland for Houston is that those 6 guys up top, Harden, Westbrook, Capella, McLemore, Tucker, House, those guys are just going to play really big minutes. And that's really all that's going to happen here. I don't think that anyone else really stands out. If you want to get crazy, Tyson Chandler being out and Nene still out. He's been out all year. Gary Clark has seen 22, 24, 29 minutes in a few games. Oh, this is the only game with Tyson Chandler out. He played 22 minutes. Still the minimum on and this is a close game. Keep in mind, this is a 118 to 119 game. So there's a few ways this can go correctly. Either Clark plays 18 minutes in a backup role and gets there. He's a pretty productive per minute player. At 3K, you're not risking too much. It's not a cash play, but it's certainly one that makes a ton of sense for GPPs. And then also on Clark is that, if you're not playing Kevin Love, and the only reason I'm not playing Kevin Love, potentially not playing Kevin Love, is because of a blowout. I think he's a phenomenal play, but you can fade him because it's potentially blowout, and because Cleveland sucks. People who sacked the Knicks last night saw what happened with that. Bad teams get blown out sometimes and they don't get there. Gary Clark would run a lot in that case. I think they would take Capella off the floor and Clark would run at the 5. So I think there's a lot of paths for Clark getting there, and I think I'm going to want some exposure to him in my GBPs. And so those are kind of some of my value plays. Hopefully that helps you guys out. That will pretty much wrap it up. Oh, real quick, I will jump over to PrizePicks, where my 2 favorite picks today are really easy. That is, I'm pulling up. Really easy, like I talked about, Kevin Love. Remember, over here on PrizePicks, we do have a promo going with PrizePicks. Of course, if you deposit, you will get a free entry, 2-pick entry, $25 2-pick entry, and they will have a deposit match as well. And if you are a returning depositor that have used code LOCKS in the past, you have to use code LOCKS to get the deposit bonus, which they'll match a certain percentage, up to a certain percentage, and then for the other, for the returning depositors, you have to reach out to PrizePicks, and they will give you a bonus as well. So if you haven't played on PrizePicks in over a month, hit them up, let them know. It's very fun fantasy site where you just pick your favorite players. Yesterday, I got busted by the Knicks not playing because I had RJ Barrett. I picked at 3, and I had RJ Barrett and Julius Randle. Randle almost still got there, but he was a little bit short of the over. And then I had Nunn, who was pretty good as a free square if you were playing this yesterday. Which again, I think there's a free square here today in Kevin Love. That's my favorite. That's my favorite one here. If you're gonna play on PrizePicks, use code LOCKS, of course, and these are my favorite two. So Kevin Love, like I mentioned, of course, we talked about him in the video. 27, you can take the over on that. I don't mind actually this over on Westbrook at 46. I don't think it's like stand out or anything. He's not gonna project well, but the minutes are just gonna be so solid for this guy. I think he's a decent play. Of course, you have to be worried about blowout there as well. But that's not one I want to talk about. I just saw that and I was just thinking about it. Kevin Love, and then the other one is going to be, don't mind this Jarrett Allen because, obviously Kyrie's still out in very solid rebounding matchup. That's a guy I like in fantasy in general today. Where's the other one? Oh, Kyle Lowry. Okay, so Lowry is at 32. Yeah, I think that, like if he's playing those 38 minutes, he's a fantasy point per minute producer. I know he's facing Patrick Beverley and everything, but this is just way too low on Kyle Lowry playing those minutes. So I don't know what's wrong with that projection there, but definitely an over there for Kyle Lowry at 32. I'm thinking more like 36 is where I'm thinking he would land on FanDuel today. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, check out PrizePicks. Don't forget to comment, hit that like button. Appreciate all you guys coming back and watching these videos, and we'll see you guys. Good luck tonight. Good luck tonight for sure on this big 11-game slate. Hope you guys take something down, and we'll see you guys back here next time. Peace.